Can anybody hear me? Hello? What the hell? Don't move.
So, yeah, we are back once again to cure everybody's need for a concise movie breakdown as we all drift into the deep, dark abyss that we call madness. The movie we are talking about today is The Backrooms, directed by Kane Parsons, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor, Renette Recife, and Mark Duplass. I've been hearing about The Backrooms for a long time, and they are finally making a movie for it. I believe this is long overdue considering the extensive, and I mean extensive, lore that is involved here. If y'all don't know what The Backrooms is, then allow me to educate you. It is a fictional location invented in 2019 thread on 4chan. It is usually portrayed as an impossibly large extra-dimensional complex of empty rooms, accessed by exiting reality. Internet writers have expanded on the concept, introducing concepts such as levels, which are interconnected layers of the backrooms with different appearances, and entities, the hostile creatures that roam these spaces. The movie is spearheaded by its young director Kane Parsons, being only 20 years old. He's a self-taught filmmaker making waves with a YouTube short made back in 2022 that amassed more than 190 million views. Backrooms movie itself premiered at the Ariel Theater on May 7, 2026, and its theatrical release in the US on May 29, 2026. The film grossed over $272.7 million worldwide, making it A24's highest grossing film to date and the second highest grossing horror film of 2026. At my time of seeing it, IMDb has it at a 7.1 out of 10 rating, and the description goes as follows. After a therapist's patient disappears into a dimension beyond reality, she must venture into the unknown to save him. Like I always say on this channel, we go through the entire movie and talk about it a bit afterwards, so yes, spoiler on this entire video. Go watch the movie yourself and come back after to join the discussion. Also, I said before that I want to be more consistent on this channel in my last video, and I meant it. Videos will be dropping every Friday, so subscribe if you like movie content and movie breakdowns, because if that's the case, then I am your boy. But without further ado, here is The Backrooms. The movie starts off showing some found footage in the backrooms labeled June 19, 1990. It shows that a man in a hazmat suit is navigating seemingly lost in this endless hallways. The man then finds a room with a radio in it and tries to call someone for help, explaining that he has been separated from the rest of his group and also describes something that was chasing him. He then hears a noise coming from a hallway that startles him, and it happens to be a bird that flew past him. He then continues to navigate the endless hallways, where we get to see that a bunch of different random items are just here. Like a sign that says no credit on it, some leaves, a couch, and some bird feathers. The man then hears another sound behind him and sees a silhouette of a giant figure appears, and he begins to run. The giant figure begins to chase him as he runs through the backrooms, and then he gets caught into a dead-end room with nowhere to go. This nigga is cooked. He then tries to run back out of the room, only to run right into the giant figure that was chasing him. The camera falls and we hear distorted screaming as it cuts off. We then skip to a house being demolished as one of our main characters, Mary, played by Renette Recife, watches as it's being destroyed. I probably just butchered her name, but fuck it, we ball. This house is actually the house that she grew up in with her mother. We then cut to a furniture store called Captain Clark's, so we meet another one of our main characters who owns the store, Clark, played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Probably butchered his name too. Clark then pulls up to his store to find the word ripoff written on his window. We then cut to a therapy session revealing that Mary's actually Clark's therapist. Clark says something interesting during the session and says that he hurts people and maybe it's just the way that he's wired and that he deserves to be alone. This will come up later in the film. Mary then does an exercise with Clark, which is a roleplay scenario where Clark plays himself and Mary plays his wife Barbara. She asks Clark to roleplay the night where Barbara kicks him out of his own house. This is where we get to see Clark's character a bit. He reveals that he came home drunk after a night of drinking and had broken the glass, prompting a freakout from his wife. As the role play goes on, Clark becomes more aggressive, raising his voice and even screaming at Mary at one point. We get to see here that Clark not only is insecure and unsure of himself, we also see that he feels completely inadequate in his life. He also emphasizes a lot about the fact that he pays for everything in the relationship, which we can see puts a lot of pressure on him. After the therapy session, it skips to Clark in a pirate costume filming a commercial for his store. After he sits down on a chair, it breaks and he falls, so he tells the two people behind the camera to turn it off. We then get introduced to two other characters who are Clark's employees, Kat, played by Lukita Maxwell, and Bobby, played by Finn Bennett. We see then later that Clark hires an electrician to figure out why his light bill is so high in the store. They both go to investigate the breaker box in the basement of the store to figure out what is the issue. The electrician then immediately finds something off about the box and finds 3 switches that are diagonal. The electrician then explains that the power doesn't even go through that part of the circuit and that switches are just there. It is now nighttime and we see that Clark actually lives in the store. As he lays in bed watching TV and also drinking, of course, the TV shuts off by itself. As he tries to fix the TV, every light in the store turns on and begins to flicker, then they just turn back off again. The next night we see Clark again watching TV and also drinking, of course. As he's watching TV, it switches by itself to a long hallway with a door at the end of it. Something is standing in the doorway as it zooms in, then the TV shuts off again. Clark then sees a bright light coming from the basement and goes to investigate the breaker box. He flips the diagonal switches and every light turns off. As he's walking away, he sees a light coming from a thin line in the wall. He walks towards the wall and hears a sound coming from it. As he puts his head to the wall to listen, he falls right through it, revealing that it is a portal to the backrooms. Clark walks in and out and then in again, completely in disbelief what is happening right now. Clark then investigates the room he's in, seeing a conglomerate of furniture in the middle of the room. He then keeps walking through what seems to be endless hallways to find a stop sign that says stop on it but backwards, and also a dead bird. As he continues to explore, he finds a radio broadcast coming from a cardboard cutout. I think they were speaking Russian, but I don't know, I'm American, all I know is English. He then finds a crawl space to another room with a bag inside of it. Inside the bag is the name tag of someone, possibly the guy from the beginning of the movie. Clark then crawls through to the next room to find shoes, a chair melted into the floor, and another small door. Clark then looks back through the crawl space he just came from, seeing something zip by super fast. Clark then rushes to the smaller door mentioned earlier and gets to the other side. He then rushes back through the portal, making it back into his store. It is then shown that someone has been watching Clark from a camera in the back rooms. This person happens to be another one of our main characters of the story, Phil, played by Mark Duplass. The next day, Clark goes to Mary for another therapy session. Mary asks him if he's drunk and he explains he hasn't had a drink since Friday. Clark then tries to explain the whole situation to Mary. The way he explains the backrooms is like describing a dog to someone who has never seen one before and then asks them to draw it. They might get some things right, but there's no way they'll get everything right. Clark then shows her a map he drew of it. Clark then says that he will come back with proof, accusing Mary of not believing him. He then goes to where his employees Kat and Bobby live to ask them for help with research, he says. A day goes by now and Kat and Bobby are back with his camera and recording the whole thing. Clark then steps through the wall and shows them the portal to get to the back rooms. They all start exploring together and Clark reveals that he's been exploring in there for a while and still hasn't scratched the surface of the place. It skips to show that Clark has found another door with a ramp on the other side that leads down to another room. Clark ties a rope around Bobby and plans to send him down there with the camera. Kat this whole time is skeptical about the whole thing that is happening, but Bobby on the other hand is completely excited about the whole situation. Clark then tells Bobby if there's any problems, give the rope a tug and he'll pull him right back up. Bobby then begins to descend into the steep ramp and actually gets to the bottom. We see then that the room down there has a bunch of pile of clothes laying around and Bobby describing that it stinks down there. Bobby then approaches a door where we see the same giant figure appear once again. This frightens Bobby as he tries to run back up the ramp, telling them to pull him up as he runs up. Clark then takes the camera from Bobby and places it on the bed. We see then that something starts pulling the rope that Bobby is attached to. After a struggle to keep him up, Bobby is then pulled down into the room. Because the rope was attached to the bed, it was pulled as well, knocking Kat and Clark down there into the room as well. Kat then runs off to try to find Bobby. Okay. While Clark runs away with the camera in hand, trying to find her. Clark then makes his way into a room with a Christmas tree emitting a red glow. Then finds a deformed man sitting in a chair with a limb next to him. When he turns on the limb, a deformed woman then appears, ripping her hair out as she chases Clark. Clark then runs away into a pool room while heavy footsteps are heard behind him. Clark can hear Kat through a wall in the room. He then puts the camera down on a small table in the room and goes to talk to Kat through the wall. As he's talking to Kat, something then grabs and picks up the camera. Whatever it is really tall considering how high the camera was picked up. As Clark turns around to see what it is, the camera then shuts off. We then see a flashback of Mary when she was a kid. She sits in a living room with open medicine bottles, all the windows plastered with newspapers and rotten food everywhere. Also, the door being boarded up. Mary then tries to peel back on the newspapers to get a look outside. Her mother then rushes in angry, telling her that she never said that she can go outside and describes that something is all over the place. This is us getting a look into Mary's relationship with her mother. She definitely has some sort of psychosis that isn't revealed to us. And of course, probably what got Mary into being a therapist in the first place. At least that's what I think. We then get to see what Phil is up to. He's a family man with a wife and 2 kids. As they are all watching TV, he sees the commercial that Clark had made for his store. Phil recognizes him from when he was camping cameras watching the Backrooms. Then catch up with Mary as she is now going to the store to check up on Clark. It is indicated at this point that Clark, Bobby, and Kat haven't been seen for a while. Mary makes her way to the basement of the store to find a whiteboard with an attempted map drawn of the Backrooms and the wall painted outlining the portal. Mary then walks through the outline of the wall and now she's in the Backrooms. Mary then begins to explore the hallways just as Clark did in the beginning. As she continues, she then comes to a dead end to find a weird mural drawn on the wall. Clark then appears behind her, telling her that she's being too loud. Mary then asks, "Where are we?" Clark replies that it's every place that ever was. Then heavy footsteps can be heard approaching them. Clark then tells Mary to stay completely calm and tells her what's coming is only him and that she knows him. As the heavy footsteps approach closer, Clark then puts Mary into a headlock, choking her until she passes out. Mary then wakes up to find herself strapped to a chair with a table in front of her and Clark sitting on the other side. The 2 people from earlier are there as well. The red-headed woman who was pulling her hair out is now standing in the corner and the man with the lamp is sitting behind her. We also see another deformed man with 6 eyes sitting at the table with them. Clark then describes this place as a real mess but beautiful in a way. Mary asks who are these people in the room with them. Clark replies that this place built them or this place remembers them. And the more time this place remembers something, the less it does. You see, everything in the Backrooms is from a real place, person, or thing, but over time, the memory of whatever it is in there becomes distorted, creating these deformed versions of whatever it was. Clark then goes on to explain that the entities in there can't feel pain, and grabs a knife and sticks it into the neck of the guy with 6 eyes. He gives no reaction. Clark says that it must feel good to be this way. There's no thoughts, no pain, no ego. They just simply exist, like furniture. He then goes on to say that you can even eat them and takes a chunk out of the guy with the eyes belly and puts it on a plate for himself and for her. He then goes on to open the fridge where we see Kat's decapitated head in there decomposing, showing even more that they've been in there for a while. Or does it? Clark tries to recreate the roleplay exercise they do in therapy where Mary plays his wife Barbara and he plays himself. He then cuts off the scalp of the red-headed woman and then puts it on Mary's head. As they are reenacting that night, once again showing Clark's insecurities and deep hatred for the position he's in his life, Clark comes to a realization that he doesn't want to change and he likes it in the Backrooms. He says he finally feels like he's right where he's supposed to be. Mary then convinces Clark to let her go, which he begins to do and then apologizes. We then hear heavy footsteps again and the red-headed woman runs to the other corner of the room. The giant figure that we've been seeing the entire movie finally reveals itself from the shadows. The figure reveals itself to be a giant, extremely deformed version of Clark in his pirate costume. Clark begins talking to this pirate Clark, introducing Mary and explaining to it that they don't have to change. Pirate Clark then picks up Clark and bites a chunk out of this nigga. As he's eating Clark, Mary gets out of her restraints and begins to run. She makes it outside to find herself in a neighborhood, but a neighborhood that seems slightly wrong, like it's being misremembered in a way. She runs to a door she sees at the end of it only for it to be locked. Mary turns around to see Pirate Clark in full chase of her, dragging a dead Clark's body with him. She then runs to another door, getting away for the moment. As she is running through many doors, she finds a room that is the exact replica of the furniture store's main floor. She tries to go to the front door, but instead of it being outside, there's only a wall there. Pirate Clark then appears and starts to chase her again. This part I didn't really get. Like, bro has a peg leg and was moving like 1 mile per hour and somehow was closing the gap on her. Sure, I would have hit him with the would have broke his shit. Mary continues to run around the room away from him, toppling over shit and grabs a coat rack as a weapon. She swings at his peg leg and ends up breaking it, but trips over a wire that causes a gas to spew into the room. This gas disorients her, causing her to fall over, allowing Pirate Clark to catch up with her once again somehow. Alright. Mary then runs and makes it into a split in the wall where Pirate Clark cannot reach her. She makes it to the other side of it and there's guys in hazmat suits surprised to see that she's in there. We then see Mary being taken into an interrogation room to be interviewed by none other than Phil himself. Phil asks her how does she get there, and Mary tells him the truth and says that she walked through a wall in a furniture store. Phil then shows her a picture of Captain Clark to confirm that this is the place that she's talking about. Phil then asks, was she shopping or how did she find this place? Mary says she was looking for someone. Phil then shows a picture of Clark and asks, was this the person that you were looking for? Mary doesn't answer and wants answers about where she is and what's going on. Phil then explains that the company he works for used to make MRI machines, but not anymore. This was before he found the Backrooms, implying that he has been in there before. He then says that his primary job is to go in there every day and just find out a little bit more about it. Phil goes on to say that he can't understand it or even describe it properly. Mary recites what Clark said earlier about it, saying it's like describing a dog to someone who has never seen one before and asking them to draw it. Phil agrees with this assessment. Phil then asks Mary to help him figure out more about the Backrooms. Mary asks Phil what's going to happen to her. Phil replies that decision is not up to him. Phil explains that there are doors to the backroom opening everywhere and they don't know why or what's connecting them together. His voice begins to fade out as we now see parts of the Backrooms again, showing deformed versions of Mary's home, office, and childhood home. The scene ends with a version of Mary, but of course slightly deformed, in a copy of the interrogation room. And that is the Backroom. When I first came across that they were making an actual mainstream movie about the Backrooms, I already was aware of the potential that it had. I believe the whole creepypasta genre is like an untapped well that Hollywood is completely ignoring. I think the last movie we got like this was like a Slender Man movie back in 2008, but that shit was ass, to be honest. But this movie was great. I gave it an 8 out of 10 on IMDb. If you know anything about the Backrooms, you know that Pirate Clark would be the least of anyone's worries if they got stuck in there. They only went over that specific entity in this movie, of course, being that it's tied to the main character, but I do wish they added some other ones. But I do like the idea behind it, Pirate Clark being a manifestation of the worst parts of Clark's personality. I fuck with that. Alright, let's get into some theories. Number 1, Pirate Clark is the real Clark. Noticeably, in the movie, you can see a scar on Clark's forehead throughout the movie. When they get to the kitchen table scene in the Backrooms, that scar is gone. Also, Clark, while in the Backrooms, behaves strangely. People who believe this think that the Clark Mary speaks with in the Backrooms is an imitation, and Pirate Clark is the real Clark trying to get help from Mary, not harm her. Number 2, Mary's mother has been to the Backrooms. What if she wasn't mentally ill at all? What if she just seen some shit in the Backrooms that changed her forever? Supporters of this believe that Mary became trapped in the Backrooms years before the events of the movie takes place and returned psychologically scarred. Number 3, the entities only move when you do. Instead of victims simply being chased, this theory suggests that the monsters mirror the movements of their victims. In the beginning of the original Backroom tapes, we see there's a note written on the wall that says, "Don't move, stay still." The monster then appears, but instead of heeding the warning, the man runs away instead. But yeah, another great movie. We actually be getting bangers this year when it comes to horror movies. Also, a lot of breakout stars and directors. Again, make sure y'all subscribe if you do like movie breakdowns or just movies in general. That's why I made this channel anyway. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about the movie, and if you were stuck in the Backrooms, what would you do? And I'll see y'all in the next video.